Oh, hey there. This is Nathan with Analog Reviews. Today we're having a look at Bioshock Infinite.
Irrational Games has unveiled their latest installment into the Bioshock franchise, which takes place in an entirely new setting, a floating city called Columbia in the year 1912. Infinite's narrative is the strongest point of the game. You assume the role of an ex-pinkerton, Booker Dewitt, who's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after witnessing the Battle of Wounded Knee. He runs up a gambling debt, but is given the opportunity to pay it off if he travels to the city of Columbia and finds a girl by the name of Elizabeth. While at first glance, Columbia seems like a technological marvel, filled with friendly people and beautiful scenery, but you'll soon realize things are not as they appear. Columbia is a juxtaposition of the darkest parts of American history, with American exceptionalism and nationalism. Racism, religious fanaticism, labor exploitation, and sexism are central to the culture of Columbia. While much of the game is devoid of the creepy atmosphere and traditional horror elements of its predecessors, the pride that the denizens of Columbia have for their dystopia in the sky is unsettling to say the least. Bioshock Infinite's tale is painted in broad strokes throughout the game, while detail and nuance is provided by the many audio logs and kinetoscopes, which are short films carefully hidden throughout the environment. Every facet of Bioshock works towards giving the player a greater understanding of its world and narrative. The posters that litter the walls display the core values of Columbia, and the song choices foreshadow some elements of the plot. It's a wonderfully cohesive experience that takes a page from the Half-Life philosophy of first-person storytelling, by not taking you away from Booker's perspective. Also commendable is Irrational Games' encouragement of exploration and taking in the atmosphere of Columbia. There are several stretches of the game that allow you to walk freely with the citizens of Columbia, taking in the sights and sounds of the city. It creates an unrivaled level of immersion and naturally fleshes out the story without interrupting the actual gameplay or pushing you towards a hollow, bombastic string of set pieces. Most of the time, you'll be playing alongside Elizabeth, who is actually very helpful, unlike some characters from other games. If you run out of ammo, she will abruptly search for some, while also providing you with money and clues if there's a secret nearby. Elizabeth is also adept at picking locks, which allows for Booker to enter areas he would otherwise be unable to reach.
Elizabeth.
Child's play. It's done.
On a technical level, Bioshock Infinite is on par with what we have come to expect from this current generation of games. Where it sets itself apart from almost every other game on the market is with its unmatched art direction. Much of the architecture in Columbia evokes colonial America, so those who live in cities like Boston, Annapolis, or Philadelphia will feel at home. As you progress, you will visit a beachside vacation spot that evokes the Atlantic City Boardwalk, a museum that sheds light on the megalomaniacal steward of Columbia, Zachary Hale Comstock, and a military theme park and industrial complex. The lighting is moody and the environments are packed with detail. In fact, it seems like the Nazis could have decorated Columbia with its many flags and propaganda posters. It's a shame when the occasional low-resolution texture comes into view, which can be common with the Unreal 3 engine. A few bugs are present as well, although they're fairly rare. They usually consist of the odd crash or animation glitch. Bioshock Infinite plays much like what you'd come to expect from an FPS game. There are various guns that can be upgraded at specific shops, as well as special powers you obtain called Vigors. These powers can be used to do things such as lighting an enemy on fire or manipulating your foes to attack one another. You can also find gear upgrades which provide various passive benefits, such as increasing Booker's resilience to damage or making his melee attacks more effective. You're also able to travel around Columbia by way of the various sky rails spread across the city. These sky rails also provide a significant boost to your combat capabilities, as you can easily dispatch unsuspecting enemies with a well-aimed jump. Unfortunately, the numerous combat options at your disposal are made irrelevant by the lack of challenge offered from the default normal difficulty, as I didn't die once throughout the entirety of the story. Consequently, I strongly recommend playing the game on the hard difficulty initially. It's also worth mentioning that upon completion of the game, you unlock what's called the 1999 mode, which pays homage to earlier FPS titles like System Shock 2. The 1999 mode essentially makes the game more difficult, where upgrades are locked in place and Booker may only be proficient with a certain type of weapon. Resource management also plays a huge part in this mode. Infinite does have the odd optional objective, which more or less consists of backtracking to either find a key or book. These items can then be used to open a chest or decipher a code, which ultimately provides Booker with various gear, weapons, and upgrades called infusions, which boosts his overall health, salt, or shield capacity. The sound is great, as all of the enemies, weapons, and vigors make convincing sounds. The voice acting is excellent, as both Booker and Elizabeth are very vocal, adding tons of interesting dialogue that work to further progress the story without slowing you down with inane, flashy cutscenes.
Are you interested in gardening, Mr. Dewitt?
They frown on gardens in my part of town.
All of the other characters you encounter are also written and acted well, making Columbia come to life in a way rarely seen outside of a traditional RPG. The majority of the music generally consists of ambient noises. When the music plays, it fits well with the story and environments. Overall, Bioshock Infinite is an amazing game, featuring one of the greatest stories ever told in an FPS. The game clocks in at a minimum of 10 hours, although you'll probably spend quite a bit of time exploring Columbia while searching for the hidden audio logs and secrets. The locales are atmospheric, varied, and exceedingly original. The floating city of Columbia and cast of interesting characters will do well to immerse you. Bioshock Infinite will leave you thinking about it long after completion, and although it's still early in 2013, the game is definitely a solid contender for Game of the Year.